Hey everyone, Sumner here with Heretic Studio, and today I'm going to show you how to install our Ford Raptor fog light kit. So the first step in this install, we'll actually attach the lights to the vehicle-specific brackets, and then install the brackets into the fog light pockets and run the wiring from each of the pockets up to the Ford upfitter wires. And at the end of the install, we'll show you how to connect that wiring. When you purchase the Ford Raptor fog light kit, you'll get 2 pairs of Quattros and a pair of BA2s, some wire adapters and universal harnesses, followed by some vehicle-specific brackets. For this install, the tools that you're going to need is a pair of wire crimpers, wire strippers, electrical tape, a razor blade, a flathead screwdriver, a 13mm socket, an 8mm socket with wrench and extension, a 8mm wrench, a 7/16 wrench, and your favorite panel pry tool. So the first step in this installation is to attach the lights to the vehicle-specific brackets. This bracket here is the driver's side, and you'll notice that it's got a couple of different slots in here. We recommend to use the interior slot, and these two will be for the Quattro, and this one will be for the BA2. And so we'll get started connecting the lights to the bracket. And when you're installing the lights on the bracket, just remember you can tighten them, but leave them a little bit loose. We'll put a final tight on them at the very end. With the lights connected to the bracket, the next step will be to install them in the fog light pocket. So we'll need to loosen this bolt right here with an 8mm socket and this bolt here. And then we'll need to loosen this bolt right here with a 13mm socket. And this bolt down here you just need to loosen. You don't need to remove it all the way. We'll also need to remove this bolt here. It's a 13mm bolt. And why we have to do that is we have to separate this panel from right here so we can slide the bracket in between these two pieces. So with the hardware removed, it's now time to install the bracket. So the bracket will install in this orientation, starting with this bolt here. Sliding it in between there and lining it up. And then we'll install the hardware. The next step will be to install the bolt back onto the top of the bracket up here. So now that you have the top bolt in loosely, go ahead and level the bracket and tighten that bolt all the way. And then after that bolt is tightened, go ahead and tighten the other 3 bolts. Now that we have the fog lights installed into their pockets, we're going to run the wire harness. Now each harness comes with 2 plugs. We're going to run 1 plug from each harness down to each fog light pocket, and then run it up to our upfitter wires, which are located near the firewall. Most of the time they're tucked behind these harnesses. So to hide the wiring that's running across the top of the engine, we're actually going to pop this panel off and run the wire underneath it. So begin by popping the clips off. You'll notice that they have a little tab. Just get under there, separate them with your favorite panel pop tool, and pull them out. So the kit will come with 2 wire harnesses, and I recommend taping them together because you're going to run these 2 ends on the long side down to the driver's side and the 2 short ends down to the passenger side. Now this is a universal harness, so it's not specifically made for the Ford, but everything will reach just fine. So using your favorite wire running tool, run the wire down by the headlight to the fog light pocket. Next, tape your 2 plugs to the wire running tool, secure it with tape. With that side run, just repeat the same process on the passenger side. So the next step in running the wire harness is we're going to trim this wire harness down. The harness comes with a length that you can run to a universal switch if needed, but for this install we're going to use the provided upfitter wires. So we will actually trim the harness at this junction here. So cut this red wire here at that location and cut the black wire here if you would like to use the provided ring terminal to ground the light. And then we'll wrap just a small piece of tape over the ground wire just covering up the bare wire there. Now with our wire harness trimmed, we're going to run it through the hole in this piece right here up to the upfitter wires. So with the wire run through this piece here, route the wiring up to the upfitter wires. And now there's a couple of different ways you can make the connection and run these wires. You can cut the wire harnesses to length and not use these ring terminals, so you end up cutting all of this off. Or you can connect these red wires direct to the upfitters, these ground wires directly to the battery. Or you can also use a factory provided ground if you want to do that and bundle the excess wire. So for this particular install, we've decided to trim the harnesses to length to avoid bundling any extras. So we cut the harnesses here. We're going to ground. We're going to use this factory ground location. We're going to clean it off so it gets a nice good contact. And then we will use a military style splice with the red wire onto the upfitter wires. Cool. So now we're ready to make our ground. So the next step in this install is to connect our red wires to our upfitter wires. For this particular install, since there's other accessories going on this vehicle, we're going to use aux 3 and 4 rated at 10 amps. So the inside quattros will run on aux 3, which is this purple green wire. And for the outer two lights, we're going to use aux 4, which is this brown wire. We're going to connect into the wires using a military splice, which is where you strip the wires about a ½ inch apart from each other and then cut the shielding away, exposing the inside wire without cutting the inside wire. We'll then separate a hole through all of the wires and poke the red wire through it and wrap it around. And then isolate it with some tape and a zip tie. With all of our wiring done now, we're going to plug the wire harness into the lights so we get the right plug into the right lights, and then angle the lights and tighten them on down. Now before we start plugging in the lights, the kit will come with a Y splitter. Just make sure to plug the Y splitter into the exterior two lights. And now with those plugged in, you can plug that into the wire harness that we just ran. Now to make sure that we have the right harness going to the right light, we're going to go and turn on the aux wire that we would like to power this light. In our case, it's going to be aux 3 to power this inner quattro. So with the right wire harness plugged into the light, we can now finish plugging in the other two lights. Now with the lights tested and functioning properly, go ahead and angle the lights to the desired direction and crank down all of the bolts using a 7/16 wrench or socket. If you have any leftover factory panels that you need to reinstall those and you'll be good to go. With your lights angled to the desired location, your install is now complete. Check us out on YouTube for more install videos like this and at hereticstudio.com for more amazing products.